get started. Recording in progress, which is good. We're going to have a recording of, I was very, very excited for this Zoom, and we're going to have a recording afterwards for anybody that wasn't able to make it. So welcome everybody. As you know, the work that we do here at End Jew Hatred and the Lawfare Project is a real mixture of civil rights activism in the social realm and then also, that litigation and legal piece. So I think that's also, a perfect segue for today's conversation with everything going on and MLK Day being yesterday. We thought this would just be a really great talk, and we're beyond thrilled that Dr. Sheila Nazarian took the time out of her crazy busy schedule to be here and talk to us, brainstorm with us, really go over one, whoever has not heard what her actual background is, she's just truly in an amazing space and place to speak intelligently to the matter both of what's going on in Iran and civil rights as a whole and activism. So Sheila, welcome
Thank
and
you.
thank you. And then we have Gerard Filitti. If any of you do not know Gerard, he is just phenomenal. He's senior counsel at the Lawfare Project and also end all be all, for lack of any better title, at the End Jew Hatred movement. So, just strategically, and because he also has that geopolitical expertise and counterterrorism expertise, he is just the most amazing, amazing human being to have with us in this fight. So, for the purposes of today, the goal of today is really discussing one, that the law isn't always just. We always hope it is, but sometimes it does need to be changed. And when it's not just, that's when, activism occurs and the pressure occurs. And when it is just, then it needs to be enforced. So there's that legal piece, the civil rights piece, and I'm really just here to moderate and be fascinated by both what, you both are going to say. I have a couple of questions, etc., but let's really just talk about, we know that a lot of you on here today for sure want to hear about Sheila and Gerard's thoughts on Iran and, the protests there, what breaks our hearts seeing what's going on there, and where we think, what is happening next, and then really tying it into the civil rights movement that we saw here that did see a lot of change in the 60s. So Sheila, can I start with you? Just brief background and take it from here. We've heard you speak and you are incredible, so looking forward to it.
Thank you so much, Michelle and Gerard, for having me. Basically, I grew up in Iran. I was born in 1979, the year the revolution started. And, a year later, the Iran-Iraq War started from 1980 to 1985. Bombs flying everywhere. We didn't have bomb shelters. So my mom would say, let's go watch the fireworks. So sirens would go off, and then we would run to the window and sort of see the lights flying in, kind of like what you see coming over Israel, often, unfortunately. My, dad has expressed to me that, even walking to work, he was scared he would get taken. He worked as the chief medical officer of the Shah's Heart Hospital, and he's a pathologist. So he, was just, he knew that, this wasn't a place for his two daughters. He could see where the country was headed. One of his lab techs tipped him off that he might be on a list to be killed. So he sort of said to the government, "Oh, I want to go to a medical conference." He left me, my mom, and my sister's passport with the government so that we weren't escaping,
Wow.
and left to Vienna and
This
sort
was
of
what year,
started.
Sheila? When was
This
this?
was 1985.
Okay.
So he, started working on like visas for us. Meanwhile, my mom orchestrated this whole thing. It was really cute. I was talking to my dad about a month ago, and he's like, I really feel bad that your mom did all of this. I just sort of paid for it. And I'm like, Dad, that's what every wife does. We do everything, and the husband just pays for it. So
So,
don't feel guilty about that. So my mom really orchestrated this whole thing. She took me, my mom, and me and my sister to the bazaar one day, and they kind of put us into a covered truck. And we were in fetal position with strangers kind of on the bottom of this truck, kind of puzzle pieced the floor
wow.
of the truck. And then they put burlap sacks and corn on top of us and took us close to the Pakistani border. We had a little bathroom break which was basically like a white clay shack with a hole in the ground. And
And now you were what? You were six. You were
I
six.
was 6.5 at the time, so I actually turned 7 in Vienna, but I'll get there.
Okay.
So that's when my mom told me we were going to America for the first time. and we switched into pickup trucks. So we had our luggage and we were just sort of sitting on top of our luggage in the back of a pickup truck with a lot of strangers. There's like 25 of us in two pickup trucks. And we spent one night in the desert around 2 or 3 in the morning. The border police saw us and they started shooting. Now, you might think it's the Pakistani border police that was shooting at us. No, it was the Iranian border police shooting at us. Because unlike border police, which is supposed to prevent people from coming in, the
Wow.
Iranian pe border police was trying to prevent us from leaving.
Huh.
Okay, so just think about that. So we turned on the headlights. It was, dark out. We just turned on the headlights because we'd already been seen, so there was no point keeping the headlights off. And they chased us through the desert. And we went over a ravine, so two wheels on one side, two wheels on the other, and then the border police thought it was too dangerous to follow us, and that's sort of how we got away. We were in Pakistan, in Karachi, for 3 months. And I remember, we would play backgammon at night with the other people who had escaped with us, and we would play Persian music and dance and sort of make the best of it while we were waiting to get visas to leave. Finally reunited with my dad after 3 months in Vienna. We were in Vienna for another 3 months, and then finally we were able to legally migrate to this amazing US
Hmm.
of A.
Really? Wow. It's first of all incredible how you, at 6 or 7 years old, you remember every single detail, which obviously shows what you went through.
Yeah.
I'm so curious now, seeing what is going on in Iran. Do you have, is it a visceral reaction, a practical, like what's your reaction and flashback and thoughts as someone that went
I
through?
think it's really interesting kind of seeing, my husband was 13 when he left, my sister was 13 when we
Right.
left. And, I know my mother-in-law is always, I'm like, do you want to go back to Iran? And she's like, Toph, I never want to go back there with the way that, they
Right.
betrayed us. Like it's a real
Right.
betrayal.
Yeah.
And now seeing, what's happening over there, we all want to go back.
Yeah.
There's like
Absolutely.
hope of seeing the mountains and like Shomal, the north, and
Totally.
like, hearing all these stories and being able to go back. I'm sure it looks nothing like it looked when we left
Right.
47 years ago or whatever, like
Mhm.
45, 42,
No,
whatever
of
years
course.
ago.
Right.
But there is this longing that I
Yeah.
honestly, Michelle, I haven't had. Like
Mhm.
even before, and I know a lot of Persian people who have similar stories, and there's a lot of us.
Yes.
When the whole Zan Zendegi Azadi movement happened, we were like, that's what you get. Your
Mhm.
parents fucked it up, and that's
Mhm.
what you get.
Yeah.
You're paying for it, And when stuff was going down in Israel, I never lived in Israel, but I knew if you dropped my Jewish butt in Israel and somebody was coming for me, somebody would come help. I didn't
Right.
feel that way about Iran because when they
Okay.
came for the Jews in Iran, no one cared. They said, we're
Mhm.
not Jewish. Why should we care? Same with the Baha'is, same with the Christians. No one cared. And they always say the Jews are the canary in the coal mine, and that's a lesson to all, the people living here in America. The Jews are the canary in the coal mine, and it starts with the Jews, never ends with the Jews, and that's exactly what happened in Iran. So
Well,
when it
now,
happened
Sheila.
before, Michelle, I had no feeling. I was like,
Right.
fuck them.
Yeah.
I really felt that way because it was that deep of a betrayal. But
Wow.
now, for me, it's different.
What
Now
changed?
yeah, I think what changed is I see the fight in them.
Hmm.
Before, it was like 100,000 people, and in general, the Persians, they just, bribe whoever you want to bribe, have your parties, look beautiful, wear the, clothing, just live, enjoy life,
Right.
and I didn't know they had the fight in them. Like Americans have the fight in them. Israelis, they have the fight in them. And now I'm seeing in Iran, they have the fight in them. And you know what? That's earned my respect.
And now, Sheila, do you also think, and Gerard, I would love your take on this too. It's the fight in them that's earned your respect, but also given the what's going on in the world and the whole, extremism taking over and what we're seeing and the Qatari influence, et cetera, and the whole Gaza situation, has that also been a pivotal change in why the support is even that much stronger from your perspective? Jewish perspective. I mean, now look, we have these rallies. Many times you'll see Israeli flags coming out strong at the rallies, which, if you think about it logically, so, per se, or the way you thought a few years ago during the Women Life Freedom movement, it's drastically different. So do you both think that the world landscape has a lot to do now with why this fight is our fight also? Gerard, Sheila. Again, I think for
Oh,
Sheila and
let me
myself
let
that we're
Gerard speak.
Iranian. Yeah. So Gerard, I would love
Uh,
your take not as an Iranian, frankly, that we both also have that Iranian
I'll
background.
echo something Sheila said that really resonated because few people know this, but I actually did my master's thesis in Iran. And my dissertation was on exchange rate misalignment and reform in post-revolutionary Iran, which meant spending a lot of time looking through archived data at the Bank Markazi, the central bank of Iran. So I got to see what life under the regime was like and compared it to all the stories I heard from all the professors and friends and family who knew Iran well before the revolution. So seeing how life changed and what Sheila said really resonated because even back then, there was the difference between how you acted in public and what you did in private. There was an article in the New York Times back then, the Chanel under the Chador, which was very telling because you could go to these exquisite Western style parties in private. You bribed the right people, you had your cigarettes and your favorite drink, and the morality police looked the other way, but there was no fight in the people. They had accommodated to what the regime was like. In many ways, just as in America, we accommodated to the Jim Crow laws and all the policies of segregation that hampered equality in America in the civil rights movement. But now it's different, and we see that increasing. In 2003, there was whether you want to call it an uprising, a rebellion, or protests, that was pretty big by comparison to what had happened in Iran before. We saw that again in 2013 under the Obama administration. We saw that more recently with Mahsa Amini. And ultimately, the issue is, I think, that you had issue-based grievances with the government. People had courage to speak out when it was an issue, and they were asking hand in hand for a change. Change this policy, and we'll go back to behaving. But what we're seeing now is really a dissatisfaction with everything. We're seeing people from all walks of life that are coming out and demanding not a change, but they're demanding a systemic change. They're demanding that the whole thing go. And I think what's emboldened them a little bit is the change in the world that we're seeing. We no longer have in the U.S. in the Oval Office a president who speaks equivocally and does not commit to helping people in Iran get their freedom or in any way. We're not looking at people who are in the Oval Office who are looking to cut a deal to keep the regime in power. And we're also seeing the effects of the U.S. and Israeli actions against Iran and how crippling they truly were, and the wake-up call that they sent
Right.
to the Iranian people that, wait a second, what we've been told by our government really is our military is a paper target. Israel, America, anyone can do pretty much whatever they want militarily, and what we've been told are lies. And this was much more effective than what happened during the war with Saddam Hussein, with the Iraq-Iran wars, because you did see a lot of damage done in Iran by Iraq, but those were different times, different weapons, different tactics. So I think there's a lot more awareness now in Iran that the international landscape has changed as well, and this is a very unique moment in history where you have internal pressure combined with favorable outside circumstances that really make
Well,
this a unique series of events that we could see and hopefully will see what we shouldn't be calling regime change because the young don't like that term. We should really be calling that a movement for freedom and democracy.
right. On point, as per usual. Sheila, you want to add anything there or?
No, I think he's absolutely right. And I would like to point out that, what Gerard said about there being internal changes, meaning it's not just the women, it's not just it's everybody. It's
Right.
rich, it's poor, it's young, it's old, it's every province, every single one, not just a few. Every economic class, male and female,
Correct.
everyone's in the streets, and they have known Westernism, right? Iran is not, an Arab nomadic culture. It has known Westernism. It has known what freedom looks like. It has
Right.
known, uh, you know, the alternative existed there.
Yes.
And I really, think that it's different for the Americans watching. It's very different than Iraq or other, Arab countries that we've sort of gone in and helped institute change, and it sort of was a big backfire. These people, you can go into Evin prison and find the intelligentsia, find leadership, find, so many talented people that could step up into different positions, whether it's the oil sector or whether it's, health sector or whatever it is. It's very different. And the brain wealth there is insane, as we know. So it is an educated population that is known Westernism. So I think that that makes it very different. And also, like Gerard said, the president in America is very different. Barack Obama put billions of dollars into pallets of cash and flew it into Iran to fund the terrorism.
Mm.
We don't see Trump doing that. We don't see Trump, and yes, Trump hasn't, gone in yet, but there is great strategy behind that.
Yeah,
And
I want to talk about that, Sheila, actually,
yeah,
because, I think that's sort of the billion-dollar question that so many people are wondering is many people are wondering why hasn't he gone in when he's posted help is on the way, for instance, or so why, and in full transparency, us at End Jew Hatred, we even circulated a petition again thanking Trump for acting in so many ways that he's acting, but also trying to apply pressure. Time is of the essence, do something. So Sheila, I want to ask you, what are your thoughts? Do you think a petition like that is necessary? And if not, why not? Because I think that's really what a lot of us are struggling with. We had our rally last Thursday night, and we were just really the focus of the rally was one to try to get media eyes on this situation, which we that's a whole nother story. But also to get word over to the people in Iran, these brave activists that are putting their lives on the line, that us, we're here in the US supporting. But the focus was not turned on asking President Trump, go in, go in, go in. So I want to hear your take now that we are 5 days after last Thursday, thinking, okay, maybe now it's time to apply that pressure. I'd love to hear what you think.
so I don't think pressure is the right way. You're not going to pressure anyone, like
Mm,
especially Trump. Like he knows
yeah,
what to do. You guys, like things have been planned months in advance. Like you think oh, today's the day and he's going to change his mind on the moment. No, things have been planned like a month ago, and you're just only hearing about it now. They're not going to leak
mm,
the information to us. Okay.
yeah,
Number one, yes, I think very important to get media eyes. Yes, I think it's very important for the people of Iran, for whatever, Starlink, whatever access they have to see that the world supports them.
right.
The hacking that the, Crown Prince
That
did
that
of
event, that was
Iranian
great.
TV
That was
was
great.
fabulous. And I
It
love to
was.
see that he's taking on a more, um, aggressive tone with the regime
Right.
and being like, I'm the one, I'm going to come in, I'm going to fix it. It's mine. And that's the kind of tone I think that is necessary right now. But I don't think that, Trump didn't go in because he's not going to go in. I think
Um,
that he received information, and this is just me watching a
yeah,
lot of
we're just
different
asking
people
exactly,
speak.
correct. I'm asking opinions of two
Yeah, I think
extremely
he received
intelligent.
information that even if you take out Khomeini, the tentacles of the octopus are so deep that Iran would essentially become an Islamist military state at that point, and it wouldn't free Iran. It wouldn't achieve the objective. It would still be a hostile country. It would still be an Islamist country. There would still be crackdowns, et cetera, et cetera. Part of the reason why the Crown Prince went on Iranian TV, who did he say his speech was for? It was for the military guard. He
Right,
was telling
right.
them you need to defect.
Giving
You are
them.
responsible for the people, not for the mullahs. And so I think that that crack is one piece of it. The other piece of it is the people need to be armed. Uh-huh, right?
Mhm,
So
mhm.
that takes time. Cracking the actual military piece of it is going to take a little bit of time. Israel was on high alert. We saw a lot of movement, getting more Iron Dome missiles in
Yes,
place and all this stuff. They need to be prepared. Um, like also the Trump administration needs to do this in such a way that it actually will lead to regime change, not just take out one person and see what happens,
right. So that
right?
it's
You don't
all,
know.
yeah.
He could have taken out that one person and they could have killed 20,000 people the next day as retaliation. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of stuff happening that it's not just about why didn't he go in? Why didn't he go in? It's like, what is the best strategy to achieve the ultimate goal? How do we do that? And I think that Trump is smart enough. Everybody says he's playing 5D chess. He is playing 5D chess. Have faith in the man. He hasn't let us down yet. And I have no doubt that he's going to become successful and that we will, Bezrat Hashem, see regime change in Iran, and hopefully we can all do an end Jew hatred trip to Tehran
Wouldn't that
next
be
year.
fabulous? Let's go. No, thanks. No, really, thank you for because it's a very thoughtful analysis, the way that, you're viewing things. So now I also want to ask you both, and Gerard, I'll start with you, as an attorney. And correct me if I'm wrong, but clearly what's going on is a violation of international human rights law. So why isn't anyone doing anything about it? And I'm going to piggyback on that. What can we as activists potentially do to make someone do something about it?
I think it's clearly a violation of international human rights law, and pretty much it's a problem that we've seen being systemic with this regime since 1979. I mean, detaining people without trial, executing them without trial, not providing them torture. We're hearing some horrific stories of torture that are coming out of Iran right now. Everything from sexual abuse to burning people alive to gassing them. It's absolutely incredible how depraved this regime is. And everything it's doing to stay in power is a violation of international human rights law. The problem is who's going to enforce that law? The United Nations is the international body, but we've seen how corrupt that has become over the years to the point that Iran sits on human rights committees. Iran gets to have, well, had a chair on issues dealing with women, of all things. So the problem is that the system is broken, that they're not going, the international community, the United Nations is not going to do anything. We're not going to see a Security Council resolution against Iran because its allies include Russia and China, and they support what's going on in Iran. They want that tie. They need Iranian oil. They need Iranian ties. They need Iranian terrorists to come and fight on their behalf in Russia, even. So you're not going to see the United Nations Security Council do anything. You're not going to see a prosecution in the International Criminal Court because Iran is not someone who's going to submit to jurisdiction. And at the end of the day, it's about policing this through consensus, because the framework, which is really rules driven through the United Nations or through the international community, doesn't apply, doesn't work when you have bad actors like this. So in an ideal world, you would have consensus. You would have the United States agreeing with other powers that, look, this regime has gone too far. It is brutalizing and killing its own people, and it must go. And the enforcement of that would be the military application of force by the United States and hopefully by allies to achieve that goal. But unfortunately, this is what we're seeing. We see a preoccupation by international bodies with Israel. We see a preoccupation by international bodies with American conduct in Afghanistan. But you don't see it about Iran. You don't see how the Islamist regime is violating the rights of its people. So that's really the fundamental problem, is that there is a double standard when it comes to the application of international law. And simply put, it just is not made to apply to regimes like Iran's.
I'll take it a step further, Michelle. 7 hours ago, Reuters and many others have reported that the UN Rights Council is to hold an emergency session on Iran. Again, I agree with Gerard that I'm not sure much is going to come out of it, but if it doesn't, I think immediately the United States needs to stop funding the UN, because at that point, it's such a sham. The videos have
Right.
gotten
I so
out. We've
agree.
seen the bullets to the head. We've
Yeah.
seen, testimonials of people who were there last week or 2 weeks ago and were able to get out, and what they've witnessed. And so at that point, I feel like if they don't, after this emergency session, do something to hold Iran accountable, then it's just not worth our money. It's not worth the real estate in New York. That's good real estate, I'm telling you. So, I think that at that point, it's just a sham. We have seen President Trump, sort of act as the world's UN, because since the UN is such a sham and such a joke at this point. So I do think that it's worthwhile for him to rally support, and I think there will be support on this topic. It is jumbled a little bit with the whole Greenland thing, and him imposing tariffs on a lot of different countries if they object to the US sort of taking Greenland as a strategic acquisition. So I'm not sure if he's gonna get much, Gerard. I don't know. I'd be interested to hear what you think at this exact point in time, but I don't think he needs it. I think between Israel, some of the Arab states, and the United States, I think they've got this.
No, I agree. I don't think it's necessary, especially militarily, but it is nice to have that international buy-in. It's nice to see other countries recognizing that this is a problem to which they've contributed because Europe is
Yes.
still a major trade partner to Iran, and
Yeah.
all that money funds the regime that creates this oppression. So it would be nice to see that recognition from other countries that it's time for change, but I kind of don't
But
think
for
it's
the very
urgent.
reasons you just stated, you're probably not going to get it.
Right.
But Gerard, let me ask you now, is there or is there not, and we could talk about it, a valid legal reason under international law for the US to take action? Is there actually any valid reason legally?
That's where we get into a little bit of a gray area because if you're listening to what the UN says and if you're looking at what the laws of armed conflict are, there is no good basis, there is no valid basis for unilateral action against a sovereign state, which Iran unfortunately is under the Islamist regime, unless it is for self-defense. So the definition, the justification that the United States has to use is that the Iranian regime is an explicit national security threat to the United
Uh,
States, which is not hard to get to that conclusion
Exactly.
because you're
Right.
looking at how many, what the statements that he's making, you're seeing the death threats, you're seeing the actual attacks. So there is valid justification as a self-defensive strike to take on Iran. But otherwise, when you look at the situation on the ground, if it were not for that, if Iran was not making statements against Trump or against America and threatening the world at large, then unfortunately it's not something that would be justified under international law, which again points to the need for reform, and maybe the UN just needs to be shipped off to Gaza or scrapped altogether.
Got it. Sheila, I have a question for you, which I think I've heard you answer before, but I think I love the answer so much, so I want everyone to hear it. What is your take as to why all of the pro-Hamas college kids who were so happy to be out and about rallying and protesting, et cetera, for the past couple of years, why are they silent on this issue? If they're really for, let's say, civil rights and for the poor people of Iran who are activists fighting, for democracy, why are they so silent?
I'll give you a more in-depth answer than what I've given in the past. So I think there's two categories of people who are protesting on behalf of, Hamas and the Palestinians, of which there's still overwhelming support for Hamas or another terrorist organization and support for what happened on October 7th. So let's not assume there's these innocent
Correct.
Palestinians. Yes, maybe 15% of them are innocent. So there's the people that like that just hate Jews, right? Hate Israel, hate Jews, want to see the downfall, and kind of are the orchestrators. And then there's just the stupid college kid who wants
Right.
to be a part of something that is, maybe has no friends,
Correct.
has interesting color hair, and whatever, just wants to be a
The
part of
typical
something.
useful idiots
The
is the
useful
best
idiots. Thank
description.
you. So I think, the people that really are orchestrating things, they were able to jump on the sort of intersectionality train, just like they did in Iran, by the way, when they overthrew the Shah. I think Iran invented intersectionality.
Hmm.
But they were like, oh, it's the white people versus the brown people. And so that's how they were able to get the useful idiots who've been indoctrinated by their professors at universities like my alma mater, Columbia, to say, oh yeah, white versus brown, we got to support the brown indigenous people, even though 85% of Israel is indigenous and not white. So I think that, there's the people that, just want the downfall of Israel and Jews, the
Hmm.
anti-Semites that have been taught by their families at the dinner
Yes.
table every day to hate Jews, to scream death to America, death to Israel since they were zero. And those people now are nowhere to be found. A, they're not being funded to be there. We know Iran was funding the college campus protests. We know Qatar has been funding these protests to make Israel go down because when Israel goes down, it's a lot easier to take America down.
Right.
And so the funding isn't there. And two, Iran funds the college campus protests. Iran funds Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis, and all of these proxies are funded by Iran. And I've actually heard undercover camera of these protest leaders say we can't say anything against Iran because Iran is fighting our quote unquote freedom fighters,
Unbelievable.
aka Hamas.
Right.
So I think that with the people that actually do know what they're doing, the anti-Semites, the anti-Israel, the anti-American people, They don't want to say anything against Iran because Iran is funding them. Iran's paying them.
Right.
Quite literally, the REI tents on the college campuses that are $500, $600 each were funded by Iran. Okay.
Unbelievable.
And Iran's revolution started on college campuses too. So they're using the
Yeah.
exact same formula here. Why is the Shah living in a castle while there's homeless people on the streets? Sound like equity?
Right.
Yes. So
Right.
all of these flowery words were the same flowery, oh, I want to be a part of those flowery words. They sound so just and so beautiful, and I'm a good person. That's how it started in Iran. And then
Mhm.
as soon as the Islamists piggybacked on the communist socialists, were able to take over, they killed all the communist socialists because they were no longer needed. They killed the useful
Correct.
idiots.
Right.
And so they're using the same formula here. And then as far as the useful idiots, they're like so confused. They're like, why are brown people killing brown people? What do I do now? And wait, why are the people being killed carrying Israeli flags and they love Netanyahu and they're renaming the streets after Trump? I'm so confused. So I think the whole house of cards is falling down a little bit right now. Everyone's being exposed. Not
Yeah.
just the people that were protesting, that were, mainly Arab, not just those people, but now we're seeing Iranians not saying anything. And I know Michelle, in our community, we're always like, why isn't that celebrity saying anything? They're on the payroll of the IRGC. Like, you know what I
Right.
mean? So we're kind of not just seeing the fakes, from
Yes.
the October
Right.
7th protests. We're seeing the fakes within our own community now. And I love it. I say sunlight disinfects, let it all come to light. So opportunities like this are really an opportunity for us to get to know who's around us and
Right.
get to know who people actually are. So I'm actually really, I think this is a great opportunity, and that's kind of the silver lining for me is everyone is showing us who they are.
Right, which that's also similar to post 10/7, very much so. I mean, and I can even speak for my own kids on college campuses that they started really knowing even friends that they thought were friends weren't, and that's life. And you move on and you stay loud. And now, tying this back into the 60s and the civil rights movement here. What we're seeing now in Iran, it really is similar in the sense that it's nonviolent, non-cooperation, similar to what transpired here. Obviously, the key difference being that, when back in the day here, maybe it was batons or animals or whatnot, thrown at the protesters. Now it's guns, torture, murders. But I guess the point is that in the US, it did work. That movement worked to change public opinion, which then trickled up and bubbled, and we see change was made. Do you both think that this could work in Iran if the protesters keep at it? And I mean, obviously, way easier said than done, myself saying it, but if they keep at it and keep strong and keep loud and keep doing what they're doing, is this sustainable? And do you think that it can actually make the change needed? Either. I would love to hear both of your thoughts on that, and then we
Sure,
could
go
open
ahead.
things up to questions.
Oh, look, I think it can. It's just a different audience that protesters are playing to. In the US, it helped to have that moral authority of nonviolence. It did win hearts and minds. And the flip side, though, is that we were a nation of laws, and the morality helped pass even better laws that were then enforced. And we had that the federal government was able to go into states where the law is not being followed. So that nonviolent protest changed hearts and minds. It made a huge difference, but the system was built in such a way as to allow
Right.
it. Compare that to two things in Iran. 1979, the protesters who were out there demanding that the Shah go, they also had moral authority on their side, which pressured Jimmy Carter into saying, well, maybe this guy Khomeini isn't a bad guy after all, because they did point out to repression that the Shah's government was carrying out, and they were able to use that moral authority as leverage to get the Shah out. So that worked then as well, with the target audience not being domestic, it being international, the international support that the Shah is receiving. Now, the message is being sent to two groups, I think. One, it's being sent to the US, that moral authority from the West that we don't want to support, and we want to take action against the corrupt government that is committing these acts of brutality against peaceful, nonviolent protesters. But the other message is to people in Iran itself. It is to people in the IRGC. It is to people in the army. It is to people who don't want to support and see what's going on and what their comrades are doing and don't want to be a part of that and think it is morally abhorrent. Part of it, I think, the messaging there is when you have that moral clarity of you're peacefully protesting and you're being repressed to that extent, it makes good-minded people within the system say, wait a second, I don't want to be a part of that. And when you add to that the call from Reza Pahlavi saying, join the right side, come over, send us your contact info so you can help the people and not oppress them. I think that has an effect within the ruling elite, so to speak. Not You'll never see the mullah say, okay, wait, we're going too far, but you'll see the people implementing, some of the people implementing these policies maybe switch to the right side. And I think that does help make a difference.
Yeah, also, I think something that I learned later on was obviously the oil situation, that the Shah wanted to start charging more for oil. So that was an incentive for Carter also to go in and replace him. And also, communism was coming down, on that side of the world. And so they created an Islamist belt to stop the spread of communism. And so these were two other kind of behind the scenes incentives of Carter but it does help. Like I said, I think that, these images coming out of Iran showing people just being shot, hearing the testimonies of, people really hysterical, I think does help change hearts and minds. And they're calling it now the Iranian Holocaust, which I hate to bring up Holocaust comparisons to anything, but when you see these beautiful young men and women that are soccer players and
Unbelievable.
swimmers, champion swimmers, and just so talented, and Iranian blood, isn't cheap. And every single person killed is a world unto themselves and a legacy and a future and a family. And it really has changed me.
Right.
It really has. And I feel like it has stripped away some of my bitterness of what they've done to us and what that regime did to us and the people who said nothing. It wasn't the majority, by the way. I want people to hear that too. It was
Yeah.
really 10 to 15% of the population that was out protesting to overthrow Khomeini. The rest of the people were silent.
Huh.
And I think as activists, I think, it really helps to highlight, even though the majority of the population was saying nothing, 10 or 15% of the population, the parents of these protesters and the grandparents, these protesters who are now being killed, trying to get their freedom back. 100,000 people lost their lives to overthrow the Shah. And unfortunately, I think it's going to take blood to reverse it. And that's exactly what we're seeing now. Without the sacrifices, you won't change hearts and minds. You will not get media attention. You will not get the empathy of the world. And it really is a fight for their lives. And unfortunately, they're going to have to pay with their lives. It's terrible to say, but it's just the reality of the world we live in. Images that go viral
100%.
on social media is what moves the needle.
I agree. Listen, I mean, for the past 3 weeks, I think that's what so many of our activists have been doing is, let's say, all of these horrifically graphic images and videos, tagging every media outlet that they can think of, tagging, all of the decision makers. It's, so many of us are at a loss as to what we can do to move the needle. So yes, there's the when we can get on the ground, rally, hope that word gets over to everyone there, and really just trying to get that, attention of the media. So, sometimes you just want to scream, why isn't anyone doing anything? The silence is deafening, both from, the Hollywood idiots, far, most of them, 99%, that in theory shouldn't even have a platform, frankly, in here, but because they have a platform in so many other areas, why are they silent now? And then, of course, just mainstream media, decision makers, et cetera, et cetera. We have to just keep
I just
trying.
want to, again, Michelle, like as a surgeon, when I
Yeah.
go, do surgery like I did this morning, I can't be emotional about it.
Mm.
And so I know we're all emotional when we see these
Very
images,
emotional.
but when you want to go in and institute regime change, you can't be emotional about it. You have to be strategic. You have to dissociate. So yes, be emotional. All of us can be emotional and kind of raise awareness. But when it comes to the administration, and leadership, they have to be tactical and
Right.
strategic. You can't just act because, oh my God, more images are coming and when is this going to happen? Obviously, that's a very understandable reaction for us lay people to have. But you have to understand, you don't need to pressure the administration. They know what they need to do. They're being strategic about it. And they need to do it in such a way that it does not fail. Donald Trump does not like to fail. Okay. And Donald Trump does not like to lose American lives. Donald Trump doesn't like to lose any lives, right?
Yep.
But especially, these soldiers that are risking everything for the freedoms of America. It is his duty to protect them, right? So trust the man. Like, yes, raise awareness. Yes, post on social media. Yes, send, tag media outlets. Yes, let's keep it part of the conversation. Let's
Right.
not, let's make the Iranian people know that we support them. Keep protesting, the only way you're going to get this is to get it back for yourselves. But help is coming, but help is coming in an effective and strategic way.
God willing, from your mouth to Hashem's ears and everyone in Iran's ears. So we have at this point, it's open to questions and answers. As of now, we have one question that came in. It's actually an interesting question for somebody not on social media because, and funny enough, my husband isn't on social media. So this is, which I think it's very few and far between these years. But someone is asking, how can we highlight the absence of the voices, within this topic if we're not on social media, but want to be able to share? Any
Like
idea?
celebrity voices.
I assume they're talking about celebrity voices, maybe media, the lack of it being shared. I assume this person, if they're not on socials, see that there's very rare, barely no news coverage on the extent of what's going on there. I mean, any
You
idea?
guys feel like there's a lack of news coverage?
I do. You don't? I do.
No. I mean, I watch the news like you guys listen to music. Like when
Yeah.
I'm doing laundry, I'm listening to the news, and every segment I listen to says something about Iran.
And
So
I'm going
I
to tell you,
don't,
so then, Gerard, I would ask this of you. You're more a news person. I'm more social media, but on socials, I see news segments that are shared. So maybe I'm not the best person to ask. Gerard, what do you think? For me, I feel like it's just not at all doing I guess, the extent of coverage that it should be receiving. But what do you think, Gerard?
My sense, and I don't want to get anyone, including myself, in trouble here, is that some networks, including ones that we frequently tend to watch, needed a little bit of a push to do more Iran coverage, especially in the last week, and they've started doing so. So now we're seeing it on Fox, we're seeing it on Newsmax, we're seeing it more and more on those channels. I still think there is somewhat of a disparity in coverage between this and other events. Everyone is talking, the news topics are, come back to Minnesota and Greenland, and with a sprinkling of Kamala Harris and what did you buy in California on top. So I think that there is news coverage and there's getting to be more of it. I also think that there was more of a focus starting this weekend because news media did expect there to be a strike. I think that there was the expectation that, with a new moon on Sunday and cloud cover over Iran, that would be the best time militarily to strike within the next 30 days. And there was that expectation. So you did see more people talking about it. But I think that the important thing here is, for those who are not on social media, is talk to people. You need to have these conversations with your friend group, with people who are bringing up other issues. Add that this is something that's important for them to keep an eye on. Even if you're not posting about it, you can still talk about it. And that conversation is, look in Iran. I mean, they're being cut off from social media and the internet, yet they still get the word out through word of mouth. So talk about it.
Right, and that's what we're trying to push a lot through our campus fellows on college campuses because we see that's the, glaringly obvious place where there's just not enough noise. So one thing we're really working hard on, so much of this fight is also allyship, which I would love to also, get into that realm a little bit. But in terms of college campuses, so allyship in that some of our campus fellows are Jewish, some aren't Jewish. So speaking to everybody about what's going on in Iran, that it's fight for their lives and a fight for democracy, fight for a free Iran, definitely trickles into democracy even further than just Iran. So definitely the talk about it, talk is something we're trying to really instill in everybody of all ages.
But
But
Michelle, I would just like to say if you're not on social media, get on social media. That's where people are talking. Like that's cute that you want, oh, if I'm not on social media, how can I raise awareness? Get on social media. Like, I mean, let's
So
be real, Michelle. Come on. How many people are they going to go talk to, Gerard? What are they going to do at their poker party? They're going to talk to five people? Like, no. If you're not on social media, you don't count.
right.
Get on social media. I mean, I'm serious. Or donate
No,
money to
to
people
fight the
that are
fight.
on
Listen, I
social
agree. I think
media.
that's why I'm on social so much is because I'm fighting this
Exactly.
fight and
Do you know how
those
much
that
time I
are
would save in my life if I didn't have social media? Oh my God. Like, look at what I've done. Like, I would
right.
accomplish 10 times more. But it's really
No,
important because that's a voice. And people
you're
consume
right.
voices
You're
through social
completely
media
right.
now. So if you're not on it, donate to someone who is.
Okay, that's very, very valid. Truly, it really is. So now, Sheila, question for you, talking about allyship. Who are our allies, and what do you think are is messaging that really resonates? A big fight, both Iran and in terms of everything in our and in the Jewish civil rights movement now, we're turning towards, and I'm sure you've heard Brooke Goldstein, our founder, speak about the importance of allyship, uniting against these extremist values and factions. Who do you think are our allies? One, identified ones and ones that we could work on getting that really we think will have, like-minded, that we're
Yeah.
fighting the same fight. That's the best
Yeah.
way to
I
form
would
it.
say all patriots in America. Christians, especially, the Christians United for Israel, the
Yeah.
evangelicals are the best,
Yeah.
like better than us. Like they're better to Jews than we are to ourselves. Like I'm telling you,
And-
take all my money, like do with it what you want. And also now, in Iran, I would say 10 to 20% still support the regime, and there's 90 million people there. So what? That's like at least 72 million people who are allies now, carrying Israeli flags, and they say Netanyahu is like the biggest hero in Iran. So that's 72 million allies potentially. The Indians are
Yes.
dealing with the same Islamist crap, and there's billions of them. Bring on the Indians. Like, how many social media followers do they have? Like, let's engage the Indians. So, I really believe right now we are at a religious crusade. I really do. It's the extremist Islamists against everyone else. And if you're silent, you don't count. If you're silent, you're like the 85% of Iranians who were silent when Khomeini took over. You don't count. You're irrelevant. And so I really think it's about giving people voices that enjoy democracy, enjoy the freedoms. Like, I don't understand how anyone is posting like get readies with me right now. Unless it's like get ready with me to go to a rally. Like,
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like
amazing.
I don't understand how people don't see what's going on.
And what's at
Um,
stake? What's
and
at
what's at
stake?
stake. Yeah, but I think us Iranians, Michelle, especially if we escaped Iran personally, or if we've heard our parents tell the story a
Right.
thousand times, it wasn't our grandparents that went through it.
Yeah,
It
we
was
still feel it. I
us.
feel it. Yeah, I was
And
born
and
there,
it's
but
the
I feel
same
it. I
formula.
feel
And
it
for
there.
us Persian
Yeah.
Jews, it's deja vu. And so that's why you see, in front of Congress, who are the students from the college campuses that are testifying? It's Persian
Yep.
Jews.
Yeah.
Because we know it firsthand where this is going. We've seen this movie before. And so I feel like we're screaming from the hills and just trying to warn everybody what's coming so that we don't let America go down the same way Iran went down.
Exactly.
And at the end of the day, it's radical Islamist ideology. If you look at it from the broader picture, the Islamic Republic of Iran funds and directs Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis, militia groups in Iraq and Syria, terrorist cells around the world, they execute. Free Palestine is the PR slogan. It's all the same. It's all the radical Islamist ideology that is anti-Western, anti-Christian, anti-Jewish, anti-everything. And that's where we really have to stand together and identify that as the biggest threat right now to our national security, to our economy, to our well-being, and to our future.
Love it.
100%. Both of you, really. That I can't thank you both enough for giving for an hour of both of your time. What you both managed to accomplish in an hour is pretty insane. So really, on behalf of all of us, thank you so much. Anybody, actually, what resonated so much with me, Sheila, was what you just said about social media. It's a very interesting take and really, really valid because that's the world we're living in now, and that's where people are getting heard. I mean, amongst so many amazing things that you both said. So for anybody that was not familiar with Sheila Nazarian before this webinar, get familiar with her because what she's no, really, what you do is phenomenal. In addition to, being a killer plastic surgeon, the amount of time that you take out to fight this fight on behalf of all of us is incredible. So
Thank
truly,
you.
thank you, thank you, thank you. And Gerard Filitti, you're an absolute boss and amazing, and we're so lucky to have you.
You too,
Join us
Michelle.
in
Thank
this fight.
you for everything you do. Thank you, and thank
Thank
you
you all
to
so much.
Andrew
And
Hagan.
everybody else, yeah, just before we go off, obviously, if you ever have any questions or anything, you could always reach us if you're on socials at End Jew Hatred, or also on our website. You could contact us anytime and get into our WhatsApp groups. So let's do this. Thank you so much, everyone.